one of the most intriguing draft guides that I will do. Welcome in, everyone. We are doing an NFL draft guide for the first 100 picks for every single NFL team. Unbelievably excited to talk about the Cleveland Browns. This is quite the draft for them. It's time to hit the reset button on a lot of stuff. Is 2026 the time that they're going to draft a quarterback? Does not seem likely with Deshaun Watson's contract coming to an end soon, as well as fifth-round pick Shedeur Sanders. Can he be the starter week one? I'm not quite frankly sure, but let me explain the project briefly. So, like I said, I'm doing the first 100 picks. I'm giving 4 prospects per pick that could possibly be selected by each team. So at first, I took every single team and I identified their team needs based off of my opinion, as well as the consensus of a lot of major media outlets. Secondarily, I identified each and every one of their picks inside the top 100 by team. Then last but certainly not least, I tracked thousands of reports. Thousands, ladies and gentlemen. I am investing in this project to identify what teams had which visits on 30 visits, as well as pro day attendance, as well as combine interviews for each and every prospect with all of the information that I could possibly find. Last but certainly not least, I took my own personal rankings of these prospects of the draft class of 2026 and combined them with the consensus of ESPN, DraftBuzz, CBS, NFL Network, and Pro Football Focus, and got a list of the top 200 prospects ranked 1 to 200. As you can see, Fernando Mendoza is the consensus number 1 overall player in this draft. So now we move into the actual project. Like I said, each team has their selections. I am picking 4 prospects per selection that I think those teams are considering to draft. I'm trying to nail 50% of these picks. I'm hoping that 50 out of 100 picks or more, hopefully, will end up having one of these 4 prospects on each pick. If you look at a lot of mock drafts, yes, they only have 1 player selected and they hit about 10 to 20% of the time. I am quadrupling my chances, but also looking to quadruple those results. Let's get into it now, ladies and gentlemen. We talk about the Cleveland Browns. 2 first-round selections, the number 39 pick in the second round, and the 70th selection in the third round. The team needs, as I've defined them, are offensive tackle, wide receiver, quarterback, corner, depth at edge, and safety. The quarterback one's gonna be a little tricky. The way that it looks like to me is that the Browns are really building this team for a quarterback in 2027. Probably one of these esteemed future 2027 draft prospects. I find it very hard to believe that they'll select a quarterback in this draft, but that doesn't mean that they don't need one. So let's get back into it, and we will talk about the individual selections, starting with the number 6 overall pick. There have been so many different players mocked to the Browns here. A lot of people suggest that they're going to trade out of this pick. I am also on that boat. I do not think the Browns can find positional value here at 6 outside of maybe Sonny Styles, if that's possible, if he doesn't get selected in the top 5, which is completely possible. Will that happen? Yet to be seen. So let's get started with my top 4 prospects. Number 1, Carnell Tate. Now, I do think the Giants are going to end up selecting him, but if they don't, the Browns desperately need positional help at wide receiver. They have Jerry Jeudy. They have, oh goodness, I'm blanking on the rookie tight end from last year that I was extremely high on. Kind of an embarrassing moment for me, but you guys know who I'm talking about. Harold Fannin Jr. Using that brain. Let's go. Harold Fannin Jr. and Jerry Jeudy are the receiving help that the Browns have right now. I would love to see them go and get Carnell Tate. I think that turns the offense into a pretty dynamic one, to say the least. Next up, this is the most realistic selection. If I had to guess, it would be Francis Mauigoa. Apparently, a lot of people are calling him CC Mauigoa. This is a very interesting selection. I have been mocking Mauigoa to the Cardinals for quite some time, but it seems like a lot of experts have started to look at the way the Cardinals have been scheduling visits and interviews for players, and it looks like they might be shifting to a little bit of a defensive-minded draft. Would not be surprised. And Maui Noah is the best tackle in this class, in my opinion. Having him here at 6 would be a great selection there for the Browns, who need some depth and starts at the tackle position. Now we move on to where I think we're going to stretch just a little bit here. Jordan Tyson at pick 6. And I say that just because I'm kind of hedging my bets here, thinking that the Browns are going to trade down. I do not think they're going to stick here at 6. It's just hard for me to see that happening. But last but certainly not least, if this player is available, I absolutely think that the Browns will select Sonny Styles, linebacker slash safety slash gadget guy out of Ohio State. Maybe the best combine performance in history. This guy is off the charts athletic. He can play basically any position that you ask him to. I'm super high on Sonny Styles. I think he's going to be a very dynamic player. You don't really draft players because they excel at a certain system. You draft players highly, at least in my opinion, because of their adaptability. Sonny Styles has shown exactly that. I think he'll be a great NFL player. So my 4 right now are Carnell Tate, Francis Maui-Noah, Jordan Tyson, and Sonny Styles. My 4 selections for the Browns at pick 6. Let's move on and talk about pick number 24. This one is also where it gets interesting. I do think if the Browns end up trading back to pick 13 or 14 or maybe 12, they'll select Jordan Tyson there. If that happens, Caden Proctor or Caleb Lomu will be available there. One of the two, in my opinion. And if that happens, I think the Browns will absolutely go with one of them. Now, Francis Maui-Noah, CC Maui-Noah is traditionally a right tackle. I think he's also played some guard. The Browns, as of right now, need a left tackle. And I think they could find that with Proctor or Lomu. Also, I'm not adding him to my official list of prospects at pick 6, but do not be surprised if the Browns somehow take Caden Proctor at 6 or Monroe Freeling. There's a lot of different tackles in this draft that the Browns are going to be targeting. But at pick 24, if somehow Proctor falls to 24, the Browns will 1,000% pick him up. Then we've got Caleb Lomu, who I think is kind of the second best choice for the Browns here at left tackle. And then, of course, if somehow the Browns draft Maui-Noah with the 6th overall pick, they're going to be looking to target wide receiver help at pick 24. My 2 that I think they'll be looking at are Denzel Boston and Omar Cooper Jr. A lot of people have become really high on Omar Cooper Jr. He's now a first-round consensus pick. Me personally, I would have preferred to see him have some more volume in college before considering him a first-round pick. I think this has to do with a high demand at wide receiver and just a low amount of supply at the position. So you turn a day 2 guy into a first-round selection. But that's just my opinion. That's what I'll say about that. So my number 24, the 4 selections that I have here are Caden Proctor, Caleb Lomu, Denzel Boston, and Omar Cooper Jr. Now we go on to the second round, day 2. These are the 4 prospects that I have at 39. For starters, R. Mason Thomas, edge rusher out of Oklahoma. Myles Garrett, yes, he can break the sack record, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't need help coming off the other side of the edge. And I think R. Mason Thomas is an absolute ball player. This guy gets the job done at every corner. He is not the guy that's going to pop off the charts at a combine. He's not going to show you the quote-unquote raw athletic skills that Sonny Styles has, but you put him on a field and he excels. I loved his game versus Tennessee and Alabama last year. Actually, not Alabama. I think it was Michigan, maybe. I'd have to go back and look at the tape. But the one versus Tennessee really pops off the chart to me. R. Mason Thomas, number 1 selection. Number 2, and I'm putting this here because I know I said the Browns will not draft a quarterback, but it seems that they're slightly interested. This is kind of just a safety valve for me. It's Ty Simpson out of Alabama, quarterback. There's a lot of people that are really high on Ty Simpson. I mean, there are several analysts that have already come out and said that they think he's better than Fernando Mendoza. Seems to be a little clickbaity to me, and this is a guy who comes from Alabama, went to Alabama, watches Alabama. I like Ty Simpson. I like his mechanics, but the unprecedented amount of starts or lack thereof is just too much for me to consider him as a second-round pick. However, the Browns seem interested. Would not be surprised to see him grabbed up at 39, if not already by the Cardinals or the Jets early in day 2. Now we go with his Alabama teammate here at pick 39, wide receiver Jeremy Bernard. Now, to me, Bernard, I'm much higher on. This is a high volume, like kind of do-it-all receiver. You don't see him go on deep routes very often, but what you do see is him possess and catch the football and make plays with it. Coming from Washington with Kalen DeBoer, it took him a year to get really involved in the system, but man, when you got him going, when you got him with the volume of catches that he needed, he goes out there and makes plays. He reminds me a lot of R. Mason Thomas on the offensive side of the football. He's not going to pop off the charts athletically, but he is just a ball player. Love Jeremy Bernard at 39 here. He's ranked a little bit lower on the consensus big board, but I still like him at 39 because the Browns really need some help at the wide receiver position. Last but not least, I talked about grabbing some depth in the secondary, and Emmanuel McNeill-Warren, if he's here at 39, I think that is an absolute steal. I think maybe the Vikings at 18 in the first round might grab him, but if they don't, there's not a lot of other teams that would be willing to take maybe a kind of a more unknown player in the first round specifically at the safety position. Plus, you already have guys like Caleb Downs and Dylan Thieneman. Those two guys will most likely be first-round selections. Now, EMW, I really like his game. I think he is, once again, a natural ball player, knows what he's doing on the field. He excels at positioning himself in positions to succeed, both in man-to-man coverage and zone coverage. The thing that I think he could work on a little bit is stopping the run a little bit more, being more physical with his body, but he's got more of a slight, slender frame. Very curious to see where he goes, but my 4 selections for pick 39 for the Cleveland Browns are R. Mason Thomas, Ty Simpson, Jeremy Bernard, and Emmanuel McNeill-Warren. Those are my 4. Now we talk about pick number 70. This one is where we get a little dicey. There's several players that I think the Browns should be interested in, but haven't seen it as much. This one is probably one of my biggest stretches of the top 100. I'd be surprised if I got this right, but at the same time, I got to put confidence in myself. So, starting off, Chris Bell, the wide receiver out of Louisville. That is just a short drive there to Cleveland. I think the Browns have gotten some good eyes on him. He reminds me a lot of a really high-end possession catch, not even a deep route specialist, but somebody that can get 15, 20 yards down the field and make a play with the ball in the air. I love Chris Bell's game. He got a bunch of reps there with Miller Moss there in the last season that he played with Louisville. He was especially electric early on in the season. Really liked what I saw on the film. But then we talk about 2 tight ends that I think are very interesting. Max Clare out of Ohio State, transferred in from Purdue, and kind of is a do-it-all tight end. Maybe the Browns under Todd Monken, who was in Baltimore with their 2 tight end sets all the time, maybe they want to do something like that and have Harold Fannin Jr. be like the receiving threat, and then have a guy like Max Clare come in and be more of a primary blocking tight end or a gadget guy. Maybe, but I just don't see how that's going to be a 3rd-round selection. But hey, I could be wrong. Speaking of wide receiver threats, Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt, the tight end, is a huge tight end threat. His off-the-chart combine day was magnificent. If not outshined by Arvell Reese or Sonny Styles, he'd be one of the top combine performers this year. I like his game a lot. I thought he paired really well with Diego Pavia in Vanderbilt and that system. Shedeur could absolutely use a guy like Stowers in this offense. And then last but certainly not least, it really does seem that the Browns are looking to get depth at the quarterback position. I understand it just considering all of the different quarterbacks that have had to play for Cleveland over the last few years. Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders, Joe Flacco, et cetera, because of Deshaun Watson's many injuries and controversies. So, my 4 here for pick number 70, and then I'll wrap it all up. Chris Bell, Eli Stowers, Garrett Nussmeier, and Max Clare. Those are going to be my 4 selections for the Browns at pick 70, but holistically, let's start at pick number 6. I've got Carnell Tate, CeCe Malinois, Jordan Tyson, and Sonny Styles. 24, I've got Caden Proctor, Caleb Lomu, Denzel Boston, Omar Cooper Jr. 39, I've got R. Mason Thomas, Ty Simpson, Jeremy Bernard, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. And then at pick number 70, I've got Chris Bell, Max Clare, Eli Stowers, and Garrett Nussmeier. Guys, make sure you check out all these other videos. Like, comment, and subscribe. It is so unbelievably appreciated. But thank you guys again for watching, and we will see you next time.